Black cards. How do they work? We investigated.
And we'll bring you all of the gruesome details. Do you think there's a secret card black market?
At number 5, we've got a very recent card that punishes you for drawing multiple cards a turn, just like Narset did back in the day. It's Orcish Bowmasters.
One whack at the time.
It's like, maybe coming into this video, you'd expect this card to be ranked even higher, but we've got more bangers further up the list. But Orcish Bowmasters is already a pretty strong swing right off the bat.
It's one of the candidates in a long time that when you read it was like, I guess that's okay. Like, it wasn't showing to me that it was good, but then once a weeks in of playing, it was everywhere.
The baseline is just too good. Like, Raise the Alarm is a bad card, but Raise the Alarm,
It used to be played.
yeah,
So it's an okay card.
but then you add 1 damage up to the card, like Raise the Alarm, deal 1 damage to anything. Okay, we're getting into serious business territory, and then you add something that punishes the most used mechanic in Magic, you got yourself a brew.
It is a bit of a feel-bad card because there's nothing in Magic that feels better than drawing cards.
Yeah.
Richard Garfield, when he was developing the game, had realized that the thing that made people the most happy was at the end of their opponent's turn, you finally get to untap and draw a card. He realized drawing cards is good. People love it. So let's maybe make a 1-mana draw 3 and make people extra happy.
Yeah, okay, well, that was a mistake. But I would argue that drawing the card triggers the same thing that social media triggers, where the next post, it might be revolutionary. And that's how it gets your brain addicted. And that's how drawing cards gets you addicted, because it could be anything. It could be a great card.
You love these cards. You put them in your deck, so you want to draw them. Now, Orcish Bowmaster is there to go, no. Oh, I'm sorry. That's what Orcish Bowmaster feels
I wanted to draw a card. At number 4, we're looking at a card, probably the best card, but more of a topic, a theme that is so strong and pretty much only in black that it needs to be mentioned.
Removal.
Yes, only black has
Discard.
removal
We're talking about the stuff that is in your graveyard is all of a sudden not in your graveyard anymore because you put it back into play. It's Reanimator, and therefore Reanimate, which is by far the best reanimation spell there is.
Yeah, because it's 1 mana.
But I lose so much life.
Yeah, your opponent also loses a lot of life.
It's okay, it's like with the green cards. Yeah, it's like with the green cards. If you're at 1 life and you win the game, you still win the game.
I feel like there is a theme to this where many of the early life loss cards were just too overpowered because life loss was so overvalued.
Also, the creatures were bad. I mean, if you're paying 7 mana for 4/4 first strike, yes, that exists, then you're not too happy. But if you now pay 8 mana for Griselbrand, you're pretty happy, I would say. When you can pay 7 more for 7 cards.
If you lose 7 life because you put your Griselbrand into play, conveniently, it has lifelink, so you gain that 7 back. See, I mean, they fixed it.
Nowadays, it's also quite relevant that you can steal your opponent's cards with it. So if you're, for example, your opponent has an Orcish Bowmaster, you can get that for just 1 mana, and it doesn't even cost you that much life. You can reanimate Death Shadows, obviously you can reanimate Griselbrands or Evazans or whatever you're in the market for, as long as it's in your graveyard or your opponent's graveyard, you can.
That's what really pushes the card over the top for me, is where usually when you think of it, you think of these combo-esque elements where you reanimate Griselbrand on turn 1 and yes, obviously the game is over. In a fair value game, or if your opponent exiles your graveyard, you can get their stuff. You can get a 1 mana Orcish Bowmaster. Think about how crazy that is. It's a 1 mana Orcish Bowmaster that usually costs 2 and at the cost of paying 2 life. Who cares?
Yeah, and obviously reanimators themselves as a deck category for since the beginning, I would say, needs to be represented.
Our next card also has to do with the graveyard, but in a kind of different way. We already talked about Underworld Breach in the red cards video. This one is the OG, the original Yawgmoth's Will. That card is broken. There's no way around it. 3 mana sorcery that lets you replay anything and everything from your graveyard, but just this turn. And if anything else would enter your graveyard this turn, it gets exiled instead.
Which is smart, you know? You play ahead.
If not, you could create some loops.
Anyways, that card completely busted, especially with cards like Dark Ritual or just any ritual in general. At the time, they seemed to think it's a good idea to introduce this kind of effect to the game.
Because I think they probably saw it as, I pay 3 mana, I play back my Shambling Ghast. I bring back my Gravedigger, which will bring back another card to my hand, and that's good. I got some value.
You think ever something was Yawgmoth's Will as a Shambling Ghast?
Probably once. A non-zero amount of times.
I don't think there was ever a next turn after somebody cast the Yawgmoth's Will.
When you think about it in a limited context, for example, Booster Draft or Sealed, it's really hard to make it a divination. It's really hard to make it a 3 mana buyback 2 cards. But yeah, in any constructed format where you build your own deck around the card, it's absolutely, hilariously overpowered.
Early Magic is full of some of the most powerful spells. 1 mana, draw 3, put 2 back on top. 0 mana, sacrifice, make some lands. So imagine just getting to play those all again a second time. It's insane.
So the only thing that was stopping Yagmoth's from really absurd is you didn't have kind of an efficient finisher.
Yeah.
But then once Tendrils of Agony got introduced, all of a sudden you actually get the bonus from casting the spells again. Yagmoth's Dark Ritual, and then you have 10 spells for Tendrils most of the
While we make fun of, the value that Yagmoth's Will generates, there was a time before Storm where it actually was used to generate value, though still in a pretty broken way, I would say, where you still utilized Dark Ritual and very cheap spells for it not to become a 3 mana draw 2 cards, but more like a 3 mana draw 5 cards, or 4, where you could flashback a Dark Ritual and then duress your opponent, maybe deploy a cheap threat and another discard spell or a removal spell, so that way you could get a 3 or 4 for 1 out of the card still.
Wastelands.
Even late game, just play Yagmoth's Will and then duress Hypnotic Spectre. Sometimes just won you the game. It's old Magic. People are playing with 4/4 Vigilance flying and be like, oh no, how will I ever beat this? So black is known for a few things. Removal, paying life for stuff, reanimating from the graveyard, but one of the classics is discard. And the best discard spell is Thoughtseize. Everyone knows Thoughtseize. It's a staple in Modern. It was a staple in Standard when it was legal. It's a staple in Pioneer. It's usually played in Legacy. It's just a really good card. Because the thing in Magic is you think, oh yeah, you used 1 mana and 1 card to get rid of a spell that I didn't use mana on. Joke's on you, you lost 2 life. But most of the time, you keep a hand with a curve or a game plan. And taking out the best part of that game plan, it's like taking out the best part of a knock-knock joke. It's not funny anymore.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Not funny anymore.
See? My point exactly.
Not your point exactly. That was still pretty funny.
For those of you who don't know Thoughtseize, it's just 1 mana, you lose 2 life, look at target opponent's hand, take their best card, pull it out, as long as it's not a land.
If you remember like Theros Standard, that format was entirely warped around Thoughtseize because relying too much on synergy just wasn't a thing you could do because, well, Thoughtseize is going to take it apart single-handedly.
If you remember Lorwyn Standard, Thoughtseize was warping the format because you could play some counter spells from Thoughtseize, beat down with some fairies, and then just win the game.
Imagine how people crap on wizards all the time. They make so many difficult cards and bad cards or whatever. If you do the 2 life and you make it 3, it's probably so much worse that it wouldn't be one of our list. If you would make it 1, it would be a difference, but
it would probably be number 1 on that list.
It's crazy how like a little bit of life,
tiny bit of tweaking.
10%, 5% of your resource that you use to start the game with makes a difference of being insanely broken and maybe just playable.
Maybe 3 is still fine, but when we get to 4 life, that's definitely turning the dial.
It wouldn't be as well played in mid-range decks, but maybe in combo decks that really need to protect their combo.
Yeah.
And fun thing about combo decks and Thoughtseize is it has a secret second mode. It pairs well with the card Reanimator, because if you don't have creature cards in your graveyard, the player you can target is yourself. Put that Grizzlebrand in your graveyard, bring it back with Reanimator. It's versatile, it's powerful, it protects combo decks, it's backed up by removal and counter spells really well. It's all around just an excellent Magic card.
And to get to see your opponent's hand.
Yes, extra value.
My favorite Thoughtseize is the Thoughtseize where you Thoughtseize, and then you concede because their hand is too good.
My favorite Thoughtseize is when you Thoughtseize, you see their Thoughtseize and you Thoughtseize the Thoughtseize out of their hand.
At number 1, and this might disappoint some of you because you're like, why isn't Doomblade on this list? Well, if you feel like we missed a card, there is an article linked in the pinned comments that includes all the honorable mentions that we considered but didn't deem top 5 worthy. That being said, at number 1, it's Demonic Tutor.
Well, yeah, no, there's no way Demonic Tutor is better than Thoughtseize.
All right, hear me out. Demonic Tutor reads, search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, then shuffle. You just get yourself a Thoughtseize with it.
A 3-mana Thoughtseize. Oh, but it could be an Orcish Bowmaster.
It could also be a Grizzlebrand. It reanimates the combo piece you need, the exact removal spell you need in a certain situation, or a sinkhole if your opponent has a land that really troubles you. It's basically your entire deck in 1 card.
It could even be a boat.
It could be a boat. It could just get you a pirate ship.
In Commander, for example, you have access to so many tutors. You have Intrigue Tutor, Imperial Seal, Diabolic Tutor, Grim Tutor, you name it, right? It does it. But everybody wants Demonic Tutor because it's so cheap and efficient. There's no downside. You can get any card of the 99 you want, and then you're just happy. That means when you have a combo, you can look for either part. You can draw the other part twice as likely. If you play multiple tutors, you can get all of it. Sometimes even, and this is no joke, your Demonic Tutor for a Vampiric Tutor to react to your opponent playing something.
Because that one is at instant speed.
Tutors are fun.
I find this card special because I do agree with the number 1 placement that we gave it, but it never feels like the number 1 card in my hand if I play with it.
It feels like the number 2 card because it just announces the number
because
1
it gets
card.
the number.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Presenting.
Yes, exactly. So I would always rather have the reanimate in my hand, right? If I want to reanimate something. But that's the hidden power of it. Like it's just always what you need. It's never a bad card.
Here's a little bit to learn. That's what a lot of the trumps do very good. That's a lot of the split cards. All the cards usually on their own are quite bad and wouldn't be played normally. But the flexibility makes them so good because you can adapt to any draw you have, your opponent has. Do you need to remove a spell, a wasteland, a Thoughtseize, your combo, whatever?
The modality is so important, and in this case, Demonic Tutor is a Thoughtseize Reanimate Orcish Bowmaster charm.
So the next time one of your friends tells you that your card is really bad, just tell them it's flexible, and that's what makes it powerful.
I'm not lazy, I'm just flexible.
Yeah. I'm not lazy, I'm just flexible with time.